Now,
on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:06, and look at that. It's Friday. We have made it through another busy week here, and the weeks just keep busier and busier, right, as we head toward the holidays. But we're doing our best to keep you sane throughout this entire process and move you right up to the new year. 2024 is around the corner, and we're here for it. Coming up at 6:35, Jake Christian Adams, expert on election fraud and election law. 7:35, Adam Gillette, accuracy in media. 7:45, Melissa Roby from We Back Blue. Oh, this Saturday we are filling up a police cruiser with toys for tots. And Melissa's going to tell you all about it. At 8:05, Bill O'Reilly will be our guest. And then at 8:35, Sean Spicer. That's a good 8 o'clock hour there.
Yeah.
O'Reilly and Spicer rounding things out this week. And, of course, every hour is going to be brilliant because Patrice Onbuka is with us. Patrice.
You are too kind, Larry.
Oh, I have my moments. Good morning to you, Patrice. You know, yesterday we were talking about the fact that this conservative beer company is coming out with a conservative men's hot women of the conservative movement calendar.
Yes, I've been seeing the photos
discussing
floating
this yesterday?
around.
A lot of people on social media were interested because Mercedes Schlepp found the idea not entirely in keeping with conservative values. And she's the mother of 5 girls, and I understand that. So I floated the idea of doing an O'Connor and Company calendar, you know.
Featuring you and Michael?
Well, that's one way to go. That would be one way to go. And Bill Hess, of course.
And Bill Hess, that's right.
Bill Hess would be the dominant cover man on our... No, I was thinking the ladies of O'Connor and Company. I would make a guest appearance in December in layers of wool, you know, just appropriately for the season. But so I wanted to float the idea. Mercedes seemed all in on it. She was on board. Patrice, I'm sure your Instagram account features all of your beautiful wardrobe and your great looks, your style.
Thank you. Would I be part of the calendar? Absolutely. Would
See, there
I
we
be
go.
part of a calendar that looks like the one that this beer company is putting together?
Well,
absolutely not.
Not suggesting that you dress like a 23-year-old championship swimmer in a bikini. No.
Or sit in a bathtub with bubbles and,
No.
Listen.
I'm certainly not suggesting that either in any way whatsoever. I think it's up to the model's preference as to how he or she would like to be presented. We'll talk to Julie about it. Well, I went to Army-Navy. This is Army-Navy week, right?
Okay,
Army-Navy football is tomorrow up in Massachusetts, up in Boston. It's going to be it's all about Bill Belichick. You know, Bill Belichick grew up as he was an assistant coach at Navy, but he was a kid in Annapolis because his dad was on the coaching staff. He's very, and I think that you love the Patriots. You're a Patriots
I
person.
do, and I think it's time for Bill Belichick to go, but that's a separate conversation.
Only if he becomes the new head coach of Navy. How great would that be?
For Navy?
His
Have you not seen
yes.
the Patriots' record right now?
He's won all his Super Bowls. I think he'd be perfect.
The person who won the Super Bowl left, two or 3 seasons ago, okay? That is the person who won all of those Super Bowls.
All of a sudden,
I'm not anti-Bill, but I recognize we all see now who was the power behind the dominance of the Patriots.
When you have the best quarterback in NFL history, it does help. You look like a pretty good coach. You're right.
It doesn't just help. It is what wins you. What helps you win. Makes you win.
And Robert Kraft, the owner of the Patriots, he has a grandson who is a Navy SEAL. So they're very Team Navy. And the Army-Navy game is going to be up in the Foxborough in the Gillette Stadium tomorrow.
Fun.
But all the other athletics in the Academy rivalry, they play each other this week. It's Army-Navy week, not just for football.
Okay.
Last night in Annapolis, it was the men's and women's swim and dive teams that competed. And we went there. We're sponsoring a couple of midshipmen who are on the swim and dive team. So we went there for it. And a very nice family came up who were listeners to the show and recognized us.
Yeah.
Came up and were talking to us. And the guy, after saying hello, said, "Oh, you're Meredith. I hear about you all the time." That happens all the time. I was like, "Oh, you're Meredith."
Yeah.
And then he turned to me and said, "So is Meredith going to be in the calendar?"
Oh, okay. And did she know?
Meredith did not really know what he was talking about.
Oh, no.
And she looked at me. She gave me a look, and then looked back at the guy and said, "I really don't know what you're talking about, but But the sense that I'm getting from you, I
Uh-huh.
can assure you that I will not be in the calendar.
Well, that's one fewer women.
I think she'd be great in the calendar. I'm
is a
telling
beautiful
you,
woman.
the people want this, Patrice. They keep begging for it.
Yes, but that is fine. We can do a calendar. We could support Fisher House, right? Proceeds
Yes,
of the calendar can
exactly.
go to Fisher
We
House.
can raise money for Fisher House.
I'm just setting expectations for our listeners.
Yes,
that you will not see me in a tub of bubbly.
No. Again, everything will be tasteful and alluring. Yeah. All right. Every picture will be tasteful, unlike the pictures we've seen on Hunter Biden's laptop.
Oh, yeah.
And yesterday,
Yes.
Hunter Biden was served with multiple federal charges by a court in California, by a grand jury. Federal grand jury handed down charge after charge after charge, and all of it had to do with tax evasion. None of it had to do with where he got the money. It's only that he didn't claim it. But there's a couple of things to unpack here, and we will. These are 9 criminal charges now, and they are serious. I have friends and advisors who I bounce things off of who are legal experts. In fact, there are some very good friends of the show who are specifically formerly of the Justice Department, even beyond Joe DeGeneva, who is a former U.S. attorney. They have let me know that these are very serious charges. And as one of our advisors here on the show put it, these look like indictments from the Justice Department from the good old days.
Oh, really?
This is how the DOJ, before it got poisoned by politics, this is the kind of indictment that they would hand down. These are serious. These are lock solid, and there is no weaseling out of them. And as I've said in the past, when we were talking about the IRS whistleblowers who said, we had this guy. We had him. And David Weiss and Merrick Garland and the Justice Department, they dragged their feet and they refused to bring the charges. I said, think about how they got Al Capone. They didn't get Al Capone on the murder and on the prostitution, on the gambling, on the money laundering, on the booze, the illegal bootlegging.
All the stuff he was known for.
They got him on tax evasion. They got him on tax charges. So if that's the only way you can do it, and it looks like that's what they've done here.
Well, yeah. I mean, these are serious, and it's so interesting here. So I was watching CNN when this came down. The faces were not gleeful as they usually are when they're charges. They were very sad. We have analysis from some of their legal experts saying, hey, listen, this is the real deal here. And more interestingly, let's not forget how these came about. They took us back to August of this year when that beautiful sweetheart deal was about to be signed off on. It was perfunctory just to take it to the courts. And one judge, one brave soul said, wait a minute. Do we understand that this deal grants Hunter Biden immunity for every other investigation, everything else?
Past and future.
Future, exactly. And one side said, yeah, absolutely. That's why we signed the deal. And the prosecutors are like, wait, what? And then it fell apart and unraveled. And so even CNN is like, that was a correct question to ask. But now this is the end result of it. And obviously they jumped to the one question is President Biden implicated? That's what I think a lot of people are looking for.
Well, we're going to pull on that string a little bit more on that sweetheart deal that David Weiss and Merrick Garland wanted to give Hunter Biden, the son of the President of the United States. And also we want to boil down, the essence of this story about what it really is all about. We'll get to that in just a moment. But it is Friday. We are heading toward Christmas. That means it's busy out there. It's going to be busy with people getting out of town for the weekend or getting to the mall for their shopping. So how's it starting out at 5:15? WMAL traffic and weather every 10 minutes first on the fives. Jamie Whitten.
WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
Live.
From the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
WMAL. Making sense of the markets. Because generational wealth doesn't build itself. Download the WMAL app to stream us for free.
All right, so let's just, before we get too carried away with 9 federal counts against Hunter Biden, the son of the President of the United States, who continues to say that he's the smartest guy he's ever met. He never did anything wrong. No one's ever claimed that he ever did anything wrong. Anyone who suggests he did anything wrong is a liar, a liar, a liar. That guy, Hunter Biden. Ultimately, all of this boils down, Patrice, and let's not ever lose sight of this. The tax evasion, the money laundering, all the other stuff that's on the laptop that he hasn't been indicted for yet. It really all boils down to a father's undying love for his son. And I just want us to keep that in mind.
If anybody believes that, I have a bridge to sell you.
Let's please just remember that. Here is cut one here. We've got those analysts on CNN, who are breaking this down for their viewers.
That Hunter Biden engaged in a 4-year scheme to evade taxes, not paying his taxes from 2016 to 2019. There were about $1.4 million that he was supposed to have paid and failed to pay during that period. Now, during this period, according to prosecutors, he was spending all this money on luxury goods, on his personal expenses. He was using a company that he owned to essentially take money out and pay for things, including a very healthy habit, apparently, on adult entertainment. He was spending more than $188,000, according to prosecutors, on adult entertainment during this period. There are things here listed, tax deductions that he attempted to claim for things like wages, which ended up going to women that he was involved in, including, for example, a $10,000 membership in a sex club. These are the things that prosecutors allege Hunter Biden used his money for instead of paying these taxes. Now,
like I said, this is really just about a father's love for his son and an annual membership to a sex club. Let's not also forget that there were regular monthly payments to his dad out of one of these businesses as well, these businesses that were used to evade taxes. And one other thing that you said, Patrice, that I think is worth remembering. When that one single solitary judge said, hold on, this deal that David Weiss, the man who's now supposedly the special prosecutor in charge of investigating the crimes of Hunter Biden, the deal that David Weiss approved and Merrick Garland approved would have immunity.
Yes.
And the prosecutor said, well, wait a minute, let's rethink that. The reason that prosecutor said rethink that is because on his way into the courtroom that day, he had to go through a barrage of media, a barrage of reporters. The reason there was a barrage of media there was because just 6 weeks before, two brave men from the IRS, two whistleblowers who were slimed and slandered and called liars by Democrats, they stepped forward and told their story before the House Ways and Means Committee, led by Chairman Jason Smith. If they hadn't done that, this entire thing would have been buttoned up.
Yeah.
And it's only because of those whistleblowers who continue to be under fire by Democrats in this town and by the Biden administration. If they hadn't blown the whistle on what really went on here, none of this would be revealed.
Absolutely. And then one step further, if the judge in the case had been on the take, had been like, well, I'm just going to let this slide, also this would have just gone through and none of this would have come forward. Now, can I just say, I just want to go back to how some of this money was spent.
Oh, please do.
Let's see. $11,500 for an escort for just 2 nights with him in 2018. That, can you imagine making what is that, about $5,600 a night as an escort with Hunter Biden? He had a business line of credit of up to $27,000 for payments for his online pornography website. So a lot of this money was for porn. He had a pretty strong addiction. He spent $237,000 on health, beauty, and pharmacy services. I'm going to guess Botox. I'm going to guess things.
Well, we know he had his teeth redone.
He had probably the dental work that he had. They're the luxury flights and the hotel car rentals. I mean, here's the what it boils down to, folks. If you and I had millions of dollars and evaded the federal government $1.4 million for over 4 years, do you think any of us would be sitting at home in our luxury home with our luxury bedding right now, perhaps with or without some company of someone else? I don't know who that would be, but Hunter Biden has that luxury of being able to walk in and out of the White House, going to state dinners with the most influential people on the face of the earth. Well, and he'd gotten by free all of this time. You and I would never. The IRS is coming after us for $600 of Venmo payments that we send to our friends.
Right.
When we send cash to our family and friends, the IRS is going to be breathing down our necks for that. So when I hear that, no, there is not a two-tier justice system, when I hear that the elites are not treated any differently, when I hear, even on CNN, they're trying to clean it up now and say, oh, well, this is evidence that the Justice Department is working for everybody and working against wrongdoers. No, it's not.
Yeah.
It is not.
Oh, absolutely, it's not. Well said, all of that, because the Justice Department has had this information for 4 years. They had this information leading up to the election. They knew, and we were told that all of the information that backed up these claims was Russian disinformation.
Exactly.
And
they lied to us.
From President Trump all the way down to talk radio hosts and reporters at the New York Post, if we raised this issue, we were part of Russian propaganda.
Yes.
So this goes well beyond all of those things. And I believe this is still just the beginning. There's more to come. And it's time for Biden to be brought into this because he's connected.
Now,
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
The time is 5:37 here. The day is December 8th, Friday, in your nation's capital. Coming up later in this morning program, O'Connor and Company at 6:35, J. Christian Adams will join us. Brand new lawsuit he's got against Howard County School Board. We'll tell you all about it.
Right.
7:35, Adam Gillette, Accuracy and Media. 7:45, Melissa Roby of We Back Blue. We are filling a police cruiser tomorrow for Toys for Tots. And
Oh,
we
wonderful.
want you to be a part of that. At 8:05, Bill O'Reilly, and at 8:35, Sean Spicer. You ready, Patrice Onwuka?
I'm ready. Let's do this.
I should
Happy
hope-
Friday, by the way.
I should hope. Oh, well, thanks for that. Happy Friday to everybody in the whole wide world. All right, the IDF is making great gains now in their latest actions in the Gaza territories to try to root that area out of the horrific Hamas terrorists, which, by the way, we're told constantly that the people of Palestine, the people of Gaza, hate Hamas, right?
yeah.
Hamas does not speak for the people of Gaza, right? So if that's the case, if the people of Gaza are under the tyranny of Hamas, in a way, the IDF is kind of doing them a favor by going after them, getting rid of them, right?
You would think so.
Sure they'll send a thank you card when this is all said and done. There were dozens and dozens and dozens of Hamas terrorists who were captured by the IDF. The video has been put out there. It takes a lot, actually, for them to surrender and be captured like this, and it's a big deal. They're just like, oh, why is there a video? Because that demoralizes the enemy.
That's right.
It makes it harder for people to join up with Hamas and all of the glorious martyrdom when you see what the end result might be. And honestly, this is worse, to have them, stripped of their clothes and they're sitting in their boxers in rows and put out there as captured prisoners of war. That's actually much more humiliating than dying a glorious martyr-like death.
And by the way, Larry,
Yeah.
The female hostages who were stripped and brutally raped,
Yeah.
gang raped, murdered, shot in the head while being raped.
Yeah.
I don't feel until people are a lot of women's groups are ready to condemn that, then there's no reason. I actually, nonetheless, I still don't condemn this. I think it's important that we see who these men are and that they are stripped of their dignity, because they stripped a lot of people of their dignity and their life.
And worse. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that perspective as well. Do not weep for these terrorists who are now seen on this video that the IDF has captured. They've also started pumping seawater into the tunnel entrances, this network of tunnels that the Hamas has created. But they were very ingenuitive. They used great ingenuity.
Ingenuity. Yes, sure.
In creating these tunnels. I mean, the effort and the energy and the thought process and the money, all the money that was spent to build this network of tunnels where they could hide themselves, hide the hostages, and hide all of their weapons and rockets. Imagine if they had actually used the humanitarian aid that was given to them to, build a functioning government and build a functioning system and actually serve the people of Gaza. Imagine how much happier they would be. But no, they are hell-bent on destroying Israel, and every dollar you give them will be sent to that end. Well, the tunnels are now indoor swimming pools.
And good.
They've asked for from the river to the sea, so we're bringing the sea to them, I guess, through the IDF.
Well, you know what? Whatever it takes to flush out these terrorists, it's needed. You know what? It's so interesting when you consider the ends to which these terrorists will use whatever resources, including people, at their disposal to destroy their enemy. And their enemy is Israel. Their enemy are Jewish people. And so whether you're talking about these men being stripped naked, and by the way, yeah, you probably need to strip them down to make sure they're not hiding explosives. They're not hiding weaponry. They're not hiding communications tools that they can be, communicating back with their leaders. So that's fine. And flush out the tunnels. I think not enough is made of the fact that these tunnels are built under places like hospitals, under places where civilians live, so that you can easily use civilians as a shield against any sort of invasion or military campaigns.
Well said. You're right. And one other development here, by the way, the IDF has surrounded the home of one of the top leaders of Hamas. This is in the city of Khan Yunis. Now, the citizens are fleeing the city. Of course, the Hamas terrorists are trying to keep the citizens from getting out.
Yeah, those are their shields.
That's right.
They're
They're trying
hostages.
to keep all the citizens in there because they would rather have the narrative that their people were killed by Israeli soldiers than actually have their people live. This is their focus. They keep telling us, by the way, that they love death more than we love life. We should probably listen to them. Israel has surrounded this city. The Palestinian citizens are trying to get out, and they're fleeing. And they're now encircling the home of this leader. His name is Yahya Sinwar. This was by the end of the day yesterday. Fighting has resumed this morning, of course, so we'll try to get you an update on that. But all you're hearing from the United States, sadly, the Secretary of State, and also from the Secretary General of the UN, is Israel better do whatever it can to bend over backwards to protect citizens. This gets so frustrating to me, and I get so angry about it. Because when we had our incursion into Afghanistan and Iraq as a retaliation to the September 11th terrorist attacks, did we stop and pay attention to people who were saying, oh, a civilian died, you better stop everything that you're doing?
No.
We did as much as what Israel has done to warn the citizens and try to let them know that it's coming. They better be ready and they better get out. But at some point, war means that you have to engage in war. And Israel should not listen to the U.S. in all of these warnings because it's grandstanding and it's going to get somebody killed, frankly, Israelis killed.
Well, think about who Anthony Blinken is talking to. He's actually not talking. His audience is not Israel or the government of Israel. His audience are U.S. citizens who are in the Democratic Party, who are worried about the Palestinians, worried about what they consider innocent Palestinian lives, who are pro-Hamas, frankly, but are using the civilians as an excuse to be pro-Hamas and anti-Israel. So he's speaking to them by speaking to Israel. Israel is right to stick their fingers in their ears and keep doing what they're doing.
That's right. After 9/11, we had every right to say Al-Qaeda and the Taliban are no more, and we're going to do what it takes to reach that
to eradicate them.
And after October 7th, Benjamin Netanyahu and the people of Israel said Hamas is no more, and now they're carrying that out. And that's their business, and we should stay out of it. It's 5:44. Hey, remember that debate that Ron DeSantis and Gavin Newsom had last week?
Yeah. Well, wasn't it
Remember how
earlier this week?
Well, that was last week.
Oh,
No,
wow.
earlier this
Time
week
goes
was the
by.
big debate of the. I know,
You're
it all
right.
blurs together, doesn't it? And we said that a whole lot of things that Gavin Newsom said on the stage were not just lies. They were like bald-faced lies.
They
just
were blatant.
Absolute whoppers. Here's Ron DeSantis talking about how more people moved to Florida than California, remember?
People understand quality of life matters. They understand that Florida's doing it right. And I can tell you the numbers speak for themselves. We have way more people moving to this state than leaving. Gavin can't say the opposite. More people are leaving California than are moving into California.
That's true, unequivocally. But, of course, that didn't stop Gavin Newsom from lying about it just moments later.
Can you explain this migration out of California and going to red state?
Well, hold on. You mean the last 2 years, more Floridians going to California than Californians going to Florida?
No, I put up on the
by the way,
screen.
that's going to be fun to fact check. So we'll just
It
start
was
right
fun to
there.
fact check, has been for a week now.
Yeah.
Well, let's continue that fact check process because California is now announcing a severe revenue decline including a record $68 billion budget deficit.
Yikes.
Now, how can that be? Because I'm looking at headlines from May of this year, where Gavin Newsom announced that California had an unheard of, unparalleled $97.5 billion budget surplus. So how just 5 months ago did they go from a $97.5 billion surplus to a new record $68 billion budget deficit?
That's a huge...
The answer is people left California in droves. And that budget surplus that they were expecting, they were projecting, they were estimating would come in, did not come in because the people who were how does a state make money? From taxes. Who pays the taxes? The people who live in the state. And when people leave the state, they don't pay the state taxes anymore.
That's right.
And the exodus out of California has now resulted in going from a $97 billion surplus to a $68 billion deficit within the course of 6 months, Patrice. And you can fact check that, Gavin Newsom. People are leaving California in droves.
If only this data was released a week ago, this would have been fantastic firepower for Governor DeSantis to take down Gavin Newsom. You know, it's also not just people who are leaving, regular folks, business owners, celebrities leaving. It's the businesses. And so when you impose regulatory costs and when you increase taxes, you talk about wealth taxes, you talk about taxing big corporations. Corporations, small mom and pop shops, it's harder for them to move, but they can. Middle-sized and big corporations, though, they have the ability to pick up and leave. And they can leave and continue to do business in California with a home base that's in another state. And so that's what you're seeing at play here.
Well, there's another thing that's at play here, too. When he announced that smoke and mirrors shell game $97 billion surplus, what did he do with it? He said, well, listen, we're not in the business of making money here. We're a government entity. If we've got all this money, it means we've been overtaxing our people. So we're going to give that money back to the people of California. Nope. He spent it all. Spending has increased under Gavin Newsom by 64% since he became governor 5 years ago.
Well, and here's the thing. He no longer has the COVID-19 cushion. All of those billions, hundreds of billions of dollars that went to states and localities from Washington, from all those $1 trillion spending bills, that money is gone now. It's not coming back. And so what's going to cut? Schools and public resources.
And I know people right now say, oh, Larry, you're from California, or your family's in California, so you just care about California. This is not about California. This is about us right here. This is about Washington, D.C. This is about this region. This is about every state in this country. There's a reason why Gavin Newsom debated Ron DeSantis last week. Gavin Newsom wants to be president sooner rather than later. He's running for president, whether it's later or whether it's, in a couple of months when Joe Biden steps down because he's unable to do it or because he's been impeached. And even Democrats, after today's news about his son, Democrats start to say, oh, we are not backing this criminal for another 4 years. Gavin Newsom is poised and ready. And the more we can expose this fraud, the better. It's 5:53.